camp in France that is called Montreuil-Bellay. And this is a camp where a man was taken with his family that I think by now he's one of the heroes. You've probably heard about him. His name is Raymond Gurême. I don't know if you've heard about him or not, but he's one of the biggest heroes, I think, from that time. So he was a French Manouche, Raymond, and he was living in the 1910s, 1920s. His family was from a lot of westerns and Charlie Chaplin movies, and also a traveling circus. So since he was very young, his dad had trained him and all his brothers and sisters to play different instruments. Raymond did not only play, I think it was the trumpet, wasn't it? It was the trumpet, and he was also an acrobat. And this was the main thing, since he was like 4 or 5 years old, he was an acrobat, and he knew how to jump, and he knew how to stand on top of a horse, and he knew how to do the thin line and balance himself and all of that. And then in 1940, Nazi Germany invaded France, and one of the first things they did is they started rounding up Roma people, Manouche there, and taking them to camps. And him and his family, they were taken to this camp next to Paris, Montreuil-Bellay. And what Raymond was doing, he had a very easy time. He was such a good acrobat that he escaped every night. They had a little chapel inside the concentration camp, and he climbed the tower in it. He jumped into a tree that was outside of the camp, and then he got out, but he didn't leave. He escaped, he went to a town, he stole bread, he came back to the camp, he climbed again into the camp, and he gave the bread to his family and to some of the other prisoners. And he was doing this for months. They never caught him. For a very long time, he was just feeding the prisoners until, after I think it was 2-3 months, one of the guards caught him at night. And since obviously there was a big punishment for trying to escape, he was then taken to another camp that was next to the Black Forest in Germany now. And he again tried to escape from that camp. He escaped twice. The first time he escaped, he went into the forest. He was living in the forest for about 2 days, just feeding off of berries and leaves and whatever he could find. And after 2 days, he found a group of kids that were maybe his age. Because I haven't mentioned it, but I think Raymond during this time, he was 13 years old, escaping from concentration camps. And when he escaped this one, he found a group of kids in the forest that were kind of his age. So then he was like, hey, he thought I'm safe, they're gonna take me, they're gonna, let me go with them. And they were members of the Hitler Youth, Nazi Boy Scouts that were in the forest. So when they saw him, with the uniform from the camp, they obviously reported him. They brought him back to the camp. He escaped again, he was captured again, and the second time when he was captured, they took him to another camp in Germany, and they put him in a maximum security cell. And he didn't know that, but since he had escaped so many times, the plan was now to take him to Auschwitz to kill him. So there was a train that was going to go to Auschwitz just the next day, and he was in a cell. The door was completely locked, and there was only a tiny window with metal bars, and it was impossible to escape. And they put him some shackles to his back, so there was no way out. But that's what the Nazis thought. But Raymond can escape absolutely anything. And he had circus experience, so for him it was very easy. He had his hands tied to the back, but he dislocated the shoulders, and he was able to bring the shackles to the front. And he had been now for a very long time in concentration camps, so he was very skinny. So he was able to ripping his skin off in the hand, he was able to take the shackles off. And when he tells this story, because we met him, right, and he tells his story, and now he's 93, 92 when we met him, but he still has this scars on top of the hands where the shackles came off. And then again, shackles off, he climbed to that tiny window, and between the metal bars, again contorting his body as if he was in the circus, he escaped. He left the camp, he jumped the fence at night, and he ended up next to the trains. Because the problem is, okay, you can escape the camp, but when you're outside, where do you go? Right? Where do you go? It's just surrounded by fields and fields of nothing. So he went to the train station, and he was very lucky, because when he was about to his plan was just to get into the train and hide in there. But one of the people that were driving the train, they saw him, and they started chasing him through the forest. And Raymond, he started running, and then eventually this man that was driving the train, he caught him, he brought him to the ground, and they started speaking in French. This man was also French, and they were very confused. I was like, why do you speak French? Why do you speak French? And it turns out the French resistance had infiltrated the trains, and they had built some like a secret compartment under the wagons to sneak their members out, because people of the French resistance were inside that camp. So they were ready to sneak people out of the camp, and they just found this random French kid that had escaped the camp, and they told him, don't worry, we can bring you back home. So Raymond was very lucky. He found these people. The French resistance took him back to Paris, and in Paris he didn't know where his family was. He lost track of them. Last time he saw them, they were all in a camp. So he was alone in Paris. So he entered the French resistance. He was there when France was liberated. After everything, after escaping 3 different concentration camps, he got a bullet to his arm during the Battle of Paris, when the Nazis were being kicked out by the American army. He survived the war as well. And then after that, he led the happiest life next to Paris. Like, he started, I think he started like buying and selling horses at the beginning. He had hundreds of like great-grandchildren. And he passed away not too long ago with 95 after leading like a very happy life. But he is, for me, he is the perfect example of a hero, you know, a Roma that instead of like, you know, that stood up and tried to save not just himself, but like when he escaped the camps, he brought back bread to like feed the people. So he is, I think, when we talk about this time, we have to focus on the tragedy, but we also have to focus on the brave stories of people that resisted. So that was Raymond.
Voilà, je m'appelle Raymond Gurême. Je suis Jean du voyage. Alors je m'adresse aux gens du voyage.